When I was a young lad, I remember playing a game I never heard of on my friend's DS. I got dropped straight in the middle of it and I didn't really know what was going on. I couldn't move at the pace I wanted, but rather at the game's tempo. At some point I got the game for myself, and for those wondering at home, the game was called Rhythm Heaven, and it would be the first of what would be many rhythm games I'd play. The rhythm game genre is one that has a very special place in my heart. Not only that, but it also has its own influence on video games as a whole, and even to the extent of mainstream culture. Simply put, they're games that coordinate their gameplay to music. Most of them ask the player to hit notes throughout a level, usually called a beat map, but there are other ways these games can be designed. Either way, if you're good, you'll try and complete the song 100% in the form of a full combo, or whatever terminology each game uses. There's been a variety of different and fun games, be them simple or complex. Most people probably know rhythm games from the popularity of Guitar Hero and/or Rock Band in the late 2000s, but believe me, this rabbit hole goes deep. The origin of rhythm games, honestly, don't have a lot of bearing as far as what they are today. The first trace of anything similar was in the early 1970s in Japan with an electromechanical arcade game in which the player would lift girl skirts to the rhythm. Yes, that is real, and yes, I wish I was making it up. The first rhythm video game would come to be in 1987 with dance aerobics on the NES, where the player would copy inputs on a power pad. However, due to the technical limitations through these first few decades, rhythm games weren't able to flourish and be fully realized. This remained true until 1996 with the release of Parappa the Rapper. Instead of beeps and boops for music, Parappa the Rapper had a hip-hop soundtrack that was a jam to listen to. Gameplay consisted of playing through songs and copying patterns coordinated to the rhythm. Unlike the games before it, the gameplay was smooth to control, and the boppin' soundtrack made that game that much more enjoyable. Konami got in on the action in 1997 with the wildly successful Beatmania, an arcade machine with buttons and a turntable that was so much fun and contributed greatly to the boom of music games. It influenced Konami so much that they changed the name of their games and music department to Bemani in honor of Beatmania's success. But actually, it was its sequel, Beatmania 2DX, that would gain much more popularity. The sequel didn't just take the success of Beatmania and run. It made the act of playing Beatmania an experience. On top of the engaging, rock-solid gameplay, deluxe arcade machines were manufactured with a variety of new amenities, including a larger display and even a platform for players to stand on and feel the bass of the music. It eventually led to Konami ceasing production on standard cabinets outright in favor of the deluxe ones. Beatmania 2DX is by far the most popular of the three and carries the legacy of Beatmania to this day, and also brought the series to North America in 2006 for the first time, titled simply over here as Beatmania on the PlayStation 2, though we did get some arcade cabinets as well. Also released under Bemani, Dance Dance Revolution. Yet another new, unique game that I wager a good bit of people probably played. It's been released in arcades, on Bemani Pocket. DDR is a tried and true game of stepping on directional arrow pads following a sequence of arrows to some banger music, including not just licensed stuff from across multiple genres, but also music from Konami's in-house artists. It was a hit worldwide both in the arcades and through several home console releases. Plug and play, DVD. The longevity of DDR to this day can't be understated. Not even going to the hardcore following still surrounding it, but also considering its other uses. DDR was implemented in schools across West Virginia through their physical education courses, and at least 10 states across the country have followed suit. It was even promoted by California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Something to note is that many of the earlier games are pretty chill and not feverishly difficult or demanding of the player. But DDR? Yeah, it wants your soul, and it will get it. Not just through DDR, but Beatmania as well. Konami pushed to the forefront more complex beat maps to challenge skilled players and reward them for it. It's why these games continue to get arcade releases and maintain fan bases nearly 15 years later. That's not to dismiss the other games of interest that were released in the late 90s, however. Nana Onsha, the creators of Parappa the Rapper, put out Vib Ribbon for the PS1. It could be considered one of the pioneer action rhythm games. Vib Ribbon forgoes instrument controllers or rhythmic button patterns on a beat map, but rather you take control of a character through a sound-generated course, even combining button inputs to make the course harder. What's more, there was a mode where the courses would generate based on whatever music CD you'd put in. Knowing that, I'm very upset this is a lesser-known game. This is such an awesome concept, especially with how much fun this would be if Vib Ribbon were remade or re-released in some form today. I also have to shout out the minimalistic art style. Something as simple looking like this isn't as common, but it's nice to see. Marketing a game with this style of presentation might be the reason it didn't do well, but that doesn't mean I like it any less. On the complete opposite side of the spectrum, Samba de Amigo. This arcade game not only had a bombastic art style, but also based gameplay around shaking two maraca controllers. It's also an earlier instance of peripherals being used to enhance gameplay, something that our amigos at Bemani have been slowly but surely getting to work on. They released Guitar Freaks in 1999. Otherwise known as Guitadora, it's similar to Beatmania in design, but uses a guitar controller instead. Drummania, same boat, but with the drum controller instead. Fun games as to be expected from Bemani, but while these series did well in Japan, they didn't take off worldwide. But the games inspiring it would. Note that after the turn of the millennium, the rhythm game genre was only starting to pick up steam in the West after the boom in Japan. Part of that is credit to Namco putting out Donkey Kong in 2003. It used the Donkey Kong brand and a set of bongos to get more eyes on what rhythm games were, since it took gameplay directly from Taiko no Tatsujin, another rhythm game with long-standing success in Japan. In 2005, the game Osu Tatsuke Wendon became a highly demanded import, prompting an altered version in Elite Beat Agents to be released in the West. Yet another fun game that, in part because it was on the DS, continued to get the ball rolling as far as rhythm game popularity over here. The big influence, though, was a company formed at MIT in 1995 known as Harmonix. Starting in 1998, they set out to make rhythm games, primarily inspired by Parappa the Rapper. They released the game Frequency and the very similar Amplitude in 2001 and 2003 respectively. It looks fun and innovative, but also looking at the footage, I can only kind of know what's going on because of this abstract art style. They also released Karaoke Revolution in 2003, which was, go figure, a karaoke game. But this direction towards a socially driven experience would mean a lot in the 2005 phenomenon, Guitar Hero. At this point, the rhythm game genre's popularity grew stagnant due to the oversaturation of DDR over the past few years. But Guitar Hero brought interest in the genre back to life again. Like Guitar Freaks, you'd use a guitar controller to play songs on a beat map or chart. Although instead of Japanese pop, the music library consisted of Western rock, which served to garner interest aplenty. The rock aesthetic of the game not only felt immersive, but was also appealing for onlookers, which added another social element to Guitar Hero's success, on top of its rock-solid gameplay that would only be refined and perfected in the coming years. Same applies with Harmonix's Rock Band, but as a full band instead of a single guitarist. Again, getting more people involved in the rhythm game experiences Harmonix had to offer. I'm gonna skip most of the story since it is not possible to put into words how big of a deal these games were. Both Guitar Hero and Rock Band got numerous releases and made $1 billion each. By 2008, these games were on top of the world as some of the most popular video games in general. Then the turning point hit in 2009 and oversaturation really started to hit the rhythm game market. The fiery competition between Neversoft's Guitar Hero and Harmonix's Rock Band wasn't suitable for a genre that could only suffice one series for the future. Part of it was people not buying as many peripherals, part of it was also the burnout the public was experiencing with these games. Even efforts like the game DJ Hero, which admittedly was pretty fun, couldn't stop the decline of the genre. It had been seen as a fad. I can go way longer about the history of these series in particular, but all that really matters is that by the 2010s, it was over. Both series had one last stand in 2015 with Guitar Hero Live and Rock Band 4. Now Guitar Hero Live? Gross. I don't like it, and neither did many others. Server shut down in 2018 and Guitar Hero is, for the most part, dead. But Rock Band 4 is doing alright. Not nearly as successful, but it's still getting downloadable content in the year 2022. But the heyday of these games are long gone. Though there are other popular rhythm games that have made their mark on pop culture. Namely, Just Dance. Particularly with the Kinect on Xbox, people could straight up dance to pop music in a method of control rhythm games didn't really have before. It's still getting annual releases from Ubisoft. I don't really like the game, but I do respect that it's still been kicking for over a decade. Fun fact, it's gotten releases on the Wii until 2020, which is interesting. As time has gone on, new, interesting games continue to crop out of nowhere. Case in point, Thumper. Released in 2016, this game is... What the fuck? Thumper is described as rhythm violence and has this evil horror aesthetic. It's got the cool idea of making notes physical obstacles along the course. Even in VR, Beat Saber released in 2018. This is possibly one of, if not the best takes for a rhythm game in VR. You wield two blades and slice the music. It's amazing! It was another smash hit within the rhythm game genre, and rightfully so. It's simple, engaging, and challenging, a formula for a rhythm game just about anybody could get behind. While the road has been bumpy for this genre in the West, Japan has skipped a beat. Not only were the aforementioned series still maintaining success, but other endeavors have involved the genre. For example, through the 2000s and 2010s, multiple companies started making games geared towards young girls including rhythm game elements, such as Prypara and Aikatsu. Why? Easy. Money! Though it's important to note that a good bit of these games use the concept of idols, which is important for a subgenre of rhythm games that has been going strong, the idol rhythm game. Bandai Namco's Idolmaster was the first of many in 2005 that was a mix of a rhythm game and an idol game. What is an idol game? I am not quite sure. The few I have played have been focused more on the rhythm game element. Another popular series is Hatsune Miku Project Diva from Sega, which has been going since 2009. It does have interesting gameplay in its own right, but more than that, it's done a good service for the popularity of Vocaloid. The idle rhythm game genre really went after the mobile game market. Love Live, Bong Dream, and Project Sekai are all idle games that have been doing pretty well. A good bit of that has to do with all of them having this gambling gimmick called a gacha, where you roll to get the PNG of the girl you want. Why is this a thing? Easy! Money! So yeah, all of this is to illustrate the history of a genre of gaming I have a lot of love and passion for. The scope of rhythm games today is vast, and from what I've experienced already, I adore rhythm games for the fun they are, as well as the great music it's given me over the years. What will the future hold with what we've already seen? We can only wonder. I love this genre!